decision by veteran Democratic Alliance leader Andrew Lowe in the Northern Cape to leave the DA has again thrown the spotlight on the international turbulence in the party. Under Lowe, the DA became the largest opposition party in the province. He left amid accusations that the party was purging experienced black leaders who were supportive of former leader Moeng. Lowe was listed as those who are facing possible disciplinary charges. And to talk to us about the impact of the latest resignation on the DA's brand, I'm now joined by brand expert Moeng. Soli, good evening and thank you so much for your time tonight. Always a pleasure to talk to you. Just before we go into the DA, I want us to talk about these arrests that we have been seeing in recent days and of course those suspects appearing in court. What do you make of it?
Well, it's good. I consider all of these arrests to be curtain raisers. I'm waiting for the big names to be called, and then I'll open that bottle of champagne and start celebrating. I think it's about time. People have been saying give Batohi and her team the time that she needs to get all the evidence. We're waiting, but I think that it doesn't mean that waiting doesn't mean that we should keep quiet. We should keep putting the pressure on the NPA, the Hawks, and all these crime investigating bodies to do what they must. And they need to start calling on the big names that keep being cited at the Zondo Commission and elsewhere, but that nobody seems to be going for. You know, all South Africans are waiting to see that, you know, there's equality before the law in South Africa. So far, we're seeing all these small little guys being arrested. We know that they were not acting alone. We know that they were protected by strong politicians at the top. Those strong politicians, and we know their names, they have to fall at some point.
And Soli, before we get into the DA conversation, do you think that this is the NPA well on its way towards restoring its credibility, as well as the Hawks and other law enforcement agencies?
Well, as I said, these are curtain raisers. For me, the NPA will be absolved when it goes for the big names. When it goes for the big mafia bosses in Nkandla or the Free State. So far they're getting for, you know, everybody will get excited because something seems to be happening. But it's good. I'm not saying it's bad, but they have to go for the big names. That's when South Africans will start having confidence again in our system. Until then, we don't have confidence.
And Soli, let's get into the DA conversation. We saw Andrew Lowe saying that he's not availing himself to be re-elected as the leader there in the Northern Cape, and reports are suggesting that he is going to be staying within the political party. What do you make of that?
Well, look, he's also stated that in as far as he's concerned, the DA is the only alternative to the governing ANC. So it means that he's not leaving for the same reasons that other people have left before, from what I see. He's not claiming victimhood or racial victimhood. I think the DA has to deal with this problem. It has this issue of black people leaving, and some of them are, you know, accusing it of not being sensitive enough to black issues or being racist and all that. It has to deal with that. It's the same way that the ANC has to deal with corruption. The DA has to deal with the perception that it's not a friendly space for black people. But I think that we should be very careful of not making the assumption each time a person who's not white leaves the DA. We should be careful not to assume that it's because there's something about their blackness that is forcing them to leave. This man has served the DA for many, many years. He's done well for the DA from what I can see. And he's living, like Mandela left the ANC at some point. He said, look, after 5 years, I'm tired. I think I should give the space to younger people, different people to continue doing the work. You know, this is what I'm getting from this guy. He's saying, look, I've served my time. I'm going to continue supporting the DA. I still think the DA is the right party. Let other people come and take the baton to the forward.
But Soli, one certainly can be excused here from reading a bit into this, and not just him saying that I'm tired, I'm going home. Because when you look at what has been happening, you look at the KZN leader not availing himself, the Free State, now him. Right. You saw John Moody, and all of these people are also people that are also, you know, John Moody may have come out to say what he doesn't stand for, and saying that the DA no longer represents him. We saw Herman Mashaba. We saw Moeng. Really, yeah. It is curious, though.
Yeah, look, I'm not going to say everything is honky-dory in the DA. I can't speak for them. The DA has this problem. They have to come out and explain what's going on, okay? But all I'm saying is I could join the DA for 6 months and leave one day and say, yeah, they're racist, that's why I'm leaving. And everybody will say, yeah, that's the DA. So the DA has got this thing hanging over his head that it's a racist party. It's not a friendly space for black people. Because of this, the stuff you've just mentioned, all these leaders who've left in the past, I don't think my money should have left the DA for it. I think that gold has to go through fire before it shows its luster. And my money needed to go through a difficult period in the DA and assert his leadership. It's a pity that he decided to leave. So I don't want to also endorse every black person who leaves and blames racism in the DA. I think I don't want to do that. I think that people must be strong and go in there and say, this is the South Africa we need to lead. And if you guys want to replace the ANC one day, this is how it works. And there will be difficult moments. It's not going to be a walk in the park for everybody, for anybody. If you can't stand the heat, maybe you don't belong to be there. But the DA must deal with the problem, the perception that it's a racist party. It's not a safe space for black people. But I also don't want to automatically support every black person who says I'm leaving because it's racism. Okay, we have to be really careful there and balance these things out.
But Solly, do you really blame Musi for giving up? Because when you look at what the party, especially now, look at what it came out of its policy conference saying that it does not see color, and this is something that is said to have not gone down well with some of its black leaders. Musi himself even said that if you do not see color, it means you do not see me. Certainly, that signaled an organization that was not for him.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that anybody who says they don't see my color, they like me, they don't see my color, they have a real problem. I'm happy with my color. Nobody must pretend that seeing my color is a problem, okay? And if the DA has said they don't see color, that's a big problem. And I don't blame anybody saying having a difficulty with that kind of stance. I think the DA needs to get to a point where it understands South Africa. It has a long way to go. There's no doubt about it. But all I'm saying is that this is a very murky environment. It's very easy for us South Africans to just put labels on stuff and think, okay, it's sorted, this is what it is. But I think it's a lot more complicated than that. For instance, I have met Sten Hessen, all right? I don't think this dude is racist, okay? But South Africans, we grow up in silos. We grow up in colored silos, Indian silos, black silos, white silos. We grow up with preconceived ideas about other people. And sometimes we say things not because we hate other people or we naturally against them or we hate them, but because that's what we grew up thinking. So we grew up in those silos where the preconceived ideas are not corrected. And we then take them into the broader South Africa and we realize that, oops, people push back and say, why are you pushing back? I didn't mean to hurt you. So it's we have a very complex society in South Africa, and we try to simplify it by saying to somebody who says something that hurts us, you are racist. Easily you are racist. And we should be very careful about it. We should understand what kind of society we grow up with, what kind of preconceived ideas. There are colored people who say crazy things about black people who say other things about white people, Indian people. We've seen it in Durban. So we need to heal, all of us, all right? And we must not be always in a hurry to put the racist labels on people because they say things that hurt us. We must understand why. What made them think that the things they think about us. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying it's a lot more complex than we often try to make it appear to be.
As a final question from me, when resigning from the party, John Moody said that it is going to continue to bleed, support, particularly at the local government polls. Do you agree with this?
Well, it's possible. As I say, the problem is on all sides. The DA needs to acknowledge that it has a problem, because it really does have a problem. When you have too many black people living and most of them or all of them citing the issues of race, that's a big problem. The DA needs to look into the mirror and acknowledge what it says. Maybe the DA is doing something wrong. It needs to get real about what it means to be South African, what it means to be the DA. If it still hopes to be the governing party of South Africa one day, it cannot get there without shedding something of its past identity. It has to change something about itself. If it doesn't, then it's going to remain a small party that that apparently just protects the rights of the minorities, and that's fine if that's what it wants to be, but it can be the replacement to the ANC at a national level if it stays the way it is. So it does have an issue to deal with in terms of race and how it's perceived and how it articulates itself in terms of on race issues, especially given the hurt, the historic hurt that many black people have gone through over tens and tens of decades.